So I'm going to show you how you can solve absolute value equations. We're going to start from simple to hard problems. So let's start with the first one. We have the absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to 9. So how can we solve for x? What priorities can we use to approach the x value? So what do you think we need to do? Basically, we need to write two equations. The first equation is just going to be the same equation except with the absolute value. It's just going to be x plus 2 equals 9. Now the second equation is going to be basically the same thing except it's going to be negative 9. So the first equation is just going to be the same equation except with the absolute value. The second equation is just going to be the same thing except the sign will change from positive to negative or from negative to positive depending on what sign it is. The sign will just change. Now what we need to do is just solve for x in both of these. So in this one, if we subtract 2 from both sides, x equals 7. And if we subtract 2 from both sides, x equals negative 11. So those are the two solutions for that problem. And you can plug it in. 7 plus 2 is 9, absolute value 9 is 9. Negative 11 plus 2 is negative 9, absolute value negative 9 is positive 9. So they both work. Again, all you really need to do is just write down two equations. First one, except same thing except with the absolute value. And the second equation, it's the same thing as the first except the sign will change. So make sure you understand that part. Now let's move on to another example that is similar. As you can see, we have 5 examples. Now this example, the absolute value of 2x minus 5 is equal to 1. So it basically is similar to the first problem. We need to write two equations. The first one without the absolute value, 2x minus 5 equals 1. Now the second one is going to be 2x minus 5, but the sign will change from positive to negative. And if you have negative 1, it will be positive 1. But this is positive 1, so this is going to be negative 1. Now we can just solve for x in both. So if we add 5, we're going to get that 2x equals 6, so x equals 3 if you divide by 2. And if you add 5 here, we're going to get that this will cancel. We're going to get that 2x equals 4, and if we divide by 2, x equals 2. So those are the solutions for that problem. X equals 3 and x equals 2. And you can plug it in. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. The absolute value of 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 5 is negative 1. The absolute value of negative 1 is positive 1. So those are the solutions for that example. They do indeed work. Whenever you have the absolute value by itself, you just gotta write two equations and there you go. You just solve for x and you get your two solutions. Now let's try a slightly difficult example. So here we have 3 times the absolute value of x minus 1 minus 2 is equal to 7. You need to know something. Whenever you're solving any type of equation, no matter what it is, if it's an exponential equation, radical equation, rational equations, I don't know, dividing, expo, logarithm, inverse, tangent functions, or whatever you're doing, right? You need to isolate that part. You need to isolate that specific notation, and then you can solve easily for it. And here we have an absolute value equation, right? So we need to isolate the absolute value, and then it will be easy for us to solve for x. So first of all, we're not going to write two equations since we have 3 being multiplied to the absolute value and 2 is being subtracted from the absolute value, so we're definitely not going to write two equations. What we're going to do first is get rid of that negative 2. That way we have the 3 multiplied to the absolute value and then we can divide by 3. So if we add 2, because we want to get rid of that negative 2 right there, it's going to be 3 times the absolute value of x minus 1 is equal to 7 plus 2, 9. Now since the 3 is being multiplied to the absolute value, we need to divide by 3 to separate the 3 from the absolute value. So we're going to get that the absolute value of x minus 1 equals 9 divided by 3, which is 3. Now, at this point, we have the absolute value by itself, right? So we can write two equations. The first one is going to be the same thing except with the absolute value notation. It's not going to have the absolute value notation. Now, the second equation is going to be x minus 1 equals, now since this is a positive 3, it's going to change into a negative 3 here. And if we add 1 to both sides, x equals 4 in this one. And if we add 1 to both sides here, x equals negative 2. So those are the two solutions for that example. And you can plug that in and you're going to get 7. 4 minus 1 is 3. The absolute value of 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 minus 2 is 7. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 minus 2 is 7. So they indeed work. Now let's try this example where we have negative 5 times the absolute value of 6x plus 2 is equal to negative 15. So we don't have anything being added or subtracted, so we don't need to really deal with anything like that. I guess you can say plus 0, but that's not going to affect anything. But since we had the negative 5 being multiplied to the absolute value, to get that we want to isolate the absolute value, right? So we want to get rid of that negative 5 by dividing both sides by negative 5, since it's being multiplied to the absolute value. So absolute value of 6x plus 2 is equal to negative 15 divided by negative 5. Negatives go away. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Now, since we have the absolute value by itself, we can write two equations. 6x plus 2 equals 3. And the other one, 6x plus 2, is going to change to negative 3. Now, if we solve for x in both, if we subtract 2, we're going to get that. Let me show it. If we subtract 2, we're going to get that 6x equals 3 minus 2, which is 1. Now, if we divide by 6, we're going to get that x equals 1 divided by 6. You could put that as a decimal, but you don't need to. You can leave it as a fraction. Now, 6x plus 2 equals negative 3. If we subtract by 2, we're going to get that 6x equals negative 5. Now, that means x equals negative 5 divided by 6. So those are the two answers for x in that example. So remember that, again, you always want the absolute value by itself. That way you can just write two equations and then you can get the answer for x. You can get the solution for x, and that's it. Now this example is going to be a plot twist, and the reason is, okay, here we had the absolute value of 3x plus 7 is equal to negative 5, right? Whenever you take the absolute value of something, you're not going to get a negative result. For example, if you take the absolute value of 3, it's going to be positive 3. If you take the absolute value of negative 3, it's also positive 3. So whenever you take the absolute value of something, it's always going to be a positive result. It's never going to be a negative result. So therefore, this equation does not exist. This is not true. This is not a true equation, okay? This is definitely not a true equation because you cannot get a negative result out of absolute value. It only produces positive results. And yeah, that's it for this video. So now you know how to solve absolute value equations. This helped you out. Make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on so you never miss a video that I'm gonna be posting all the time. Lots of educational videos, so make sure you don't miss on that. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.